Hello Trekkies, welcome back with another character, Datafile. Today we're going to talk about Gul Evek from Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine and Voyager, briefly. With Gul Evek we have a really special case in the Star Trek universe because he is one of the few actors that actually appeared in 3 different Star Trek shows and played the same exact character. So keeping up with the Cardassians, Gul Evek was one of the military officers in the Star Trek universe. The first time we come across with his character is a brief conversation between him and Miles O'Brien in the Deep Space Nine episode Playing Gods. Miles O'Brien had an issue with the space threats in the station, and basically he contacted the Cardassian government trying to find out what the hell they did with those creatures in order to keep the station safe and sound. And it's kind of nice not having rats in the station, so it was kind of understandable. So we're seeing Gul Evek for the first time in this episode as a secondary character, and he sarcastically said,
Federation technology isn't up to the task, eh?
Thanks for your help.
The Federation could always withdraw from the...
No comment. Next time when he appeared, it was in Star Trek The Next Generation Season 7, the episode Journey's End. Well, in this episode his mission was to actually do a survey in Dorvan 5. There was an ancient Native American Indian group who was living in that planet, and they've been facing a situation like they had to relocate them because the planet became part of the Cardassian territory. That was a negotiation between the Cardassian and the Federation, just basically to avoid any conflicts between the two nations. Evek arrived to this planet 6 weeks prior, when the Cardassians actually supposed to show up in this planet, and that caused a little bit of a tension in the planet between himself and Picard as well. Gul Evek confronted Picard and the other way around, like, hey, this is technically gonna be our planet, so why are we not allowed to come here and just investigate a couple of things? Which was quite normal. This was the episode actually when we got to know a little bit more about him, because we got a little character story. We got to know he actually had 3 sons, and he lost 2 in the Cardassian Federation war back then.
I lost 2 of 3 sons in the war, Captain. I don't want to lose the last one.
We got to see his diplomatic side as well, when Picard was actually able to talk with him, and he got to a certain point when he was understanding towards the situation, what the Federation dealing with and what's the situation going on in this planet.
I cannot speak for every Cardassian you may encounter, but if you leave us alone, I suspect we will do the same.
After this appearance, we see the character in Star Trek Deep Space Nine again in the episode Maquis Part 1, where this is where the character gets more purpose in terms of the series, and this is where he gets actually more interesting as a character himself. The Maquis was a plotline that started out in The Next Generation. It was quite a big part in Star Trek Deep Space Nine in the first 2 seasons, and obviously in Star Trek Voyager we got the Maquis crew forming and uniting together with the Federation crew. With Gul Evek we got a person who actually was dealing with the Maquis, which interestingly gave a little flavor to the whole story. It wasn't just a group of people who, they've been dealing with here and there. So in this episode he basically made himself the person who was dealing with the Maquis from the Cardassian side.
Do you deny that the Federation is engaging in organized terrorist activities against the Cardassian people? Deliberately undermining this treaty?
From Deep Space Nine we have to jump back to Next Generation, because the next time when we see the character is in the episode Preemptive Strike. He was commanding the Veltar, the Cardassian Gallo-class starship, when he actually got surprised by a bunch of Maquis ships, but the Enterprise happened to be there and saved the day. Again, there was an interesting confrontation between himself and Captain Picard in the Enterprise, where basically they throw into each other like, hey, you should do more patrolling in the DMZ because, these attacks are getting more regular. And then Picard basically said the same thing to him, so it was kind of a pointless argument. From TNG we have to jump back to Deep Space Nine in the episode Tribunal, when he actually appeared again, capturing Miles O'Brien, who was just going for a show leave with his wife, Keiko O'Brien. As it turned out, he was accused transporting warheads to the Maquis, but obviously that wasn't the case. But as it turned out, that was just a sort of plan to obscure the Federation and the Cardassian friendship. And the next and the last time when we seen his character in the Star Trek universe, it was in Star Trek Voyager, the first episode, the Caretaker, the pilot episode. He also appeared just briefly in the screen, in commanding the Galore class starship, going after Chakotay and the Valjean. I remember the first time when I saw him in the screen in the Valjean, I was like, wow, that's a familiar face!
Marquis ship. This is Gul Evek of the Cardassian Fourth Order.
So it was really cool to see this character coming from Next Generation Deep Space Nine and briefly appearing in the first episode of Voyager in the first couple of minutes basically, and having this sort of feel of continuity in the Star Trek series. So if we have to summarize Gul Evek as a character, he was really interesting in terms of he only appeared as a secondary character, as a schmuck from the Cardassian Union, talking about space threats, and then he slowly became a part of the franchise that he was actually the person who was dealing with the Maquis. And he kept dealing with the Maquis in his last appearance in Voyager. Now we all know that the ship followed the Valjean into the Badlands, and we don't really know if the ship actually destroyed, his character got killed or died or whatever, but you know, there's a saying in sci-fi, you're never really dead. So Gul Evek has a really special place in the Star Trek universe, not just having someone who was dealing with the Maquis from the Cardassian side, but someone who was there from TNG and slowing and morphing towards Deep Space Nine, and he was even there when Voyager kickstarted. So you kind of have the feeling seeing him in this free series, like, hey, this free series connected. It's not just like a separate series. Obviously, we still in the Star Trek family, we still in the Star Trek franchise universe. But he was one of the characters along Quark and Worf who actually appeared in this free series, connecting this free series in a really interesting and intimate level. Gul Evek played by Richard Poe, and under his 6th appearance he actually made this role an iconic one. It's rare to say from a secondary character that they really become an influencer in the Star Trek universe. We have Q, a secondary character, is a brilliant person, and it really moves the plot along, and he really forms the characters as well along his way. Gul Evek had a somewhat familiar effect on the show, and I remember every time seeing him popping up in DS9 or TNG or even in Voyager, like, hey, that's the Cardassian that we all knew, just we didn't really think about that much because he was just a secondary character. There's one interview with Richard Poe where he talks about his character and talks about Star Trek itself. I put the link in the description box below. In this interview he stated, and I quote, "Evek has his shades of grey, moments of understanding, another time he's imperious, but he thinks with purpose, defending his people. But luckily he had a little bit of a human in him as well." I kinda really liked his character all over these short appearances, and he really connected the free series, and he really became the person who was actually dealing with the Maquis crisis and the Maquis things. So it was really Gul Evek who was kicking ass between the Maquis, so he was a badass person. So that was my short character data file about Gul Evek. Please let me know in the comment section below what did you like about this character, and what was your favorite or least favorite moment in those short appearances of Star Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine or Voyager. As always, thank you very much for watching. Please don't forget to like and share the video, and don't forget to subscribe to receive all the geekiness every week. And until next time, live long and prosper.